welcome to another episode of the Hotspur Huddle live and direct on a Wednesday evening. My apologies for no Hollie's Hotspurs live on Monday, but I was literally on my deathbed. As you can tell, I still have a bit of a snotty nose, but that's all in the past now. And with me tonight to dissect the Fulham game and a little bit of other stuff to go on about the weekend, I am joined by the lovely Wes to start with. Wes, how are you?
I'm all right. I've just about got over Saturday's defeat. It is Wednesday, so yeah, about right. Yeah, proper bad day at the office for Spurs. But yeah, other than that, I am all right. I am all good. Looking forward to the show as always because we have the best team of people here. To obviously go through. Not only that, but some other bits and pieces as well.
100%. And also the fabulous Nelson is with us too. Nelson, how are you?
I'm doing good, Hollie. Good to have you back as well, from last week as well. And yeah, I'm just happy to be back again to talk everything football. So let's run it.
Let's go for it. And obviously, tonight's show, as always, is sponsored by the amazing Kofa, which I'm going to allow Wes to do his thing. So Wes, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's Kickoff Football Academy in Milton Keynes. We run lots and lots of different football sessions for young boys and girls in the Milton Keynes area who are looking to develop their game in one way or another. So we run lots and lots of one-on-one sessions. We have mini kickers, holiday camps, birthday parties. We also offer team coaching, girls football, skill centres. And after school football. So we are, pretty much at the forefront of anything football related for the Milton Keynes area. So if you are in and around Milton Keynes, then please get in touch because we would love to help your son or daughter with their footballing ability and their footballing skills. Hollie, you're on mute.
You can tell I've had 2 weeks off. I was going to say, lovely stuff, Wes. And like I say, make sure you go check out Kofa. But we're going to dive straight into it. And obviously, because we didn't have Hollie's Hotspurs, we might delve into a little bit into that game, obviously, at the weekend. And Wes, I'm going to start with you for this one because obviously it was, I would say a game out of the blue, actually, because I kind of wasn't expecting the way it kind of went. Were you?
I don't think anybody was, to be honest, especially given our second half massacre at Villa Park. So I think going into the Fulham game, I think majority of Spurs fans were confident, especially given how we performed against Villa. And we literally tore them apart in that second half. And no team has really done that to Villa, especially at Villa Park. Not only this season, but probably under Unai Emery as well. So yeah, coming into the Fulham game, like I said, I think everybody was fairly confident that we were in with a shout of getting a good result. Obviously, Villa were playing on the Sunday, so it was a really good opportunity for us to take the initiative and really put some serious pressure on Villa to get a result. I think the incentive of us winning and getting into the top four should have been a big thing. I know Ange has really played that down, obviously, in his post-match interview, which was something that I quite liked, actually. It was for the first time, I think, in a long time, we've had a manager look at the bigger picture. So, yeah, for me, it was a real shocking performance and definitely up there, I think, with one of the worst ones that we've seen, because I genuinely think we could be playing now and offer pretty much the same as what we offered on Saturday. So yeah, real bad one at the office on Saturday.
It really was. It was almost like everybody was non-existent. And I think that was the most frustrating thing because you could see things happening and you're like one sloppy pass after another sloppy pass. And then there was nothing happening in the midfield and you're like, what's the point? And to sit here and say I didn't turn it off, I actually did. And that's the first time I've done that in a very, very long time. But Nelson, I'll come to you on the flip side because obviously lots of people had their say about how the game went wrong, this, that and the other. But for you, obviously there's lots of chat about whether has Ange got this game right in terms of he's only got one plan, this, that and the other. From an outsider, do you think the overreaction is kind of warranted, or do you think it's just way too much with a new manager coming in so early?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, Holly. I think it's actually too much because I know me and Wes spoke about this a bit last week in the sense that, if you guys were to qualify for Champions League, were these group of players actually ready to make that step up? And we obviously said that, and we kind of agreed that maybe not. and maybe Europa League would still be kind of a good season if you did finish fifth. So I don't think it's warranted by everybody just kind of like, going at Big Ange, with his, kind of plan A sort of thing and no plan B. So I agree with Wes in the sense that, with the post-match interview, I think he's actually right to prioritize growth instead of, actually trying to focus on the present. And I think that will actually do you guys in the long run. I read a Sky Sports article about, and prioritizing growth. You guys are pressing much better than you did last season. And also in terms of your average squad, in terms of age, you're actually you're much younger than you were last season in terms of average squad age as well. So I think Andrew's come in and actually looked at what could be done for the future rather than focusing on now. So I do think it's a bit too much in terms of what people have said in regards to him sticking to his philosophy.
I think that's the thing. I think we're all very impatient as Spurs fans. But for me, and Wes, coming back to you, obviously we are in this for the long haul. I know we've had previous managers that we know are only here for a little bit of a stint. But what would you kind of say to those people that are having questions already this early on? Kind of like what Nelson says. Is it just put up with it, stick up with it? We've got bigger things to fry in the long run.
I can't understand. I think from what I've seen since Saturday, our fan base, and I think I was saying this to somebody earlier, our fan base is almost slipping into the Arsenal fan base, especially when Arteta was first in there. And we all know the sort of problems and issues that he faced. But it was almost in the sense of you were either Arteta out or Arteta in. And there was no middle ground to kind of accept that you're going to lose games. And we are going to lose games. We've all said at the start of the season, there's going to be bumps in the road. We get a bump in the road, and all of a sudden it's Ange out. He's only got one way of playing. He's not good. He can only do it in tin pot leagues. Well, hold on a minute. Klopp's got one way of playing. Guardiola's got one way of playing. Bielsa's got very much so a one way of playing. Do you know what I mean? These elite Poch's got one way of playing. The elite managers all have one way that they play. And it's about making plan A better. And I'm pretty sure I've said that a few times, especially on here. And that's what it is. But I think we are getting into and we need to be careful of this because it's going to turn the fan base so toxic. We need to get away from you're either Ange in or Ange out. We're playing the best football that we've seen for 5 years. We were dreaming that we would hopefully get this style of football back, but there is going to be some things that aren't going to go to plan. It's natural. It's sport. It's football. You're not going to steamroll teams every week. It winds me up, and there's a few other things that have wound me up on Twitter as well. People coming out with various bits and pieces, and then you actually dig a little bit deeper under the surface of what certain people are saying, and you go, hold on a minute, that's not right, or that's wild. So yeah, I think for me it's just a case of let's just accept defeat. Let's put this particular game in a box of a bad day at the office. We were bad, Fulham were good at the same time, so props and give Fulham their flowers because they were brilliant. But we need to get away from this feeling that and fans getting a kick out of us losing because it's then like, oh, I told you so. Told you Ange wasn't that great. Told you, and it's like, no, let's just get behind the football team and the football club, and let's get united again. And like I say, let's just put defeats to one side. There's a way in which we lose. Or we can lose. I think, we're coming off the back of the Chelsea game. We were all like, wow, we've got our football club back in that moment because we were proud to see our team still having a go, even though we were down to 9 men. And yeah, that defending on the halfway line with 9 men still baffles me. Of course it does. But it's like I say, we've had, the 2 defeats against Wolves. We were honking. But all right, bad day at the office. Fulham away again, honking. Brighton away for 70 minutes, absolutely abysmal. And then we kind of started playing again. So yeah, it's frustrating. Don't get me wrong, of course it is when you lose, but bit of context around the situation, bit of, thinking of the bigger picture and not just being so reactionary, for me, is my message, not only to people here listening or whatever, but to the fan base in general.
I think I couldn't put it any better myself, Wes. I
Yeah.
think you hit the nail on the head there. And one more thing, Nelson, before we move on. Obviously, as it pains me to say it, you're a fan that have obviously gone through what we're going through and obviously reaping the rewards with Arteta now. What would your advice be to... It sounds horrible because obviously we hate each other as Spurs and Arsenal fans, but what would your advice be to fans that are struggling to try and see the bigger picture?
You've really got to firm it out, if I'm going to be honest, because I know me and Wes have had this chat in the sense of just like, because I can't lie, I'm actually wishing for a really grand final between both clubs, because I think that would be a great thing. But I think I think it's about, I think there's no middle ground, like Wes said. There are going to be people that are going to be Ange out or Ange in. But I think if everybody does pay attention, and to be fair, I think Ange has his ideas, and I think no one, I mean, looking at my perspective and what we went through as a club, there was a lot of people that wanted him out. But I think the board, I think what's really important is, having the backing of the board. And I think if the board do stick with Ange, I think Ange doesn't care pretty much what the fan base thinks. I think if he has the backing of the board, he will make, I believe, actually, after seeing, you guys play, actually, like Wes said, the best football in the last 5 years. I think you'll make the right investments. I think you'll be able to play the right football. And I think you'll be able to also build a culture at the club that has been lost for a number of years. I think that's important. People forget. He's trying to build a culture at the club that involves discipline, work ethic, all of that. So, I think give him time. And I think, the fan base will hopefully reap the rewards. Okay, if not, then obviously fair enough. It will be justified that, he leaves. But I think obviously from seeing it and experiencing it myself, just give the man time, and then you'll be able to see hopefully what the board have brought him for a reason. So yeah.
That's the thing, like you said, with obviously the culture. I think we all kind of forget that last season and even the season before that, it was rough being a Spurs fan, just because you lost that disconnect. And with Ange coming in, okay, like Wes has said, like you've both said, they were bad games against Fulham and previous ones. But my word, I kind of put it to bed and then I moved on because I know that my Spurs is there or thereabouts. So yeah, it's a great point, Nelson. But we're going to move on because obviously there was some big games at the weekend in the FA Cup. And Wes, I'm going to come to you because that game was insane between United and Liverpool, wasn't it?
I mean, forget that game for a minute. Wolves Coventry had absolutely everything. That was, for me, the game of the weekend. That was peak FA Cup. That was FA Cup at its best. You get the proper underdog story with Coventry as well. Obviously, with what they've been through, especially over the last sort of 6-7 years, obviously, like not being able to even play it at the CBS Arena, I think it is now, or the Rico, is it? It is more known to people. So yeah, obviously they go and take the lead and everything else, and then Wolves sort of hit back, and you think, right, well that's it. Wolves are going through, and then Coventry just from nowhere really kind of pulled 2 goals out. And actually, on the balance of play, you'd probably argue that Coventry deserved it. They played really, really well. And we all know the job that Gary O'Neill's doing at Wolves, and I think he could be in for a shout at Manager of the Year, 100%. I know that Wolves have got their front 4 out, and I was speaking to a Wolves fan actually about it on Sunday, and it was like, look, name any team would struggle with their front 4 out, and you kind of go, yeah, I get you. But yeah, I think that was, for me, that was the game of the weekend. Forget United, Liverpool. Obviously, yes, that had the mad ending in extra time, and Anthony fuming because Ten Hag's told him to go and play left back and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, the game of the weekend was definitely Wolves Coventry.
That kind of leads you on to the next question to Nelson. That is, what was your game of the weekend? Was it the same as Wes? Was it the Coventry one?
Yeah, I happened to. I think Wolves Coventry was an absolute blinder of a game. You could argue that United Liverpool as well. You got 2 elite teams. at their best, trying to play. And it's obviously bragging rights at the end of the day, with it being, we know the rivalry that they've had in the history that these two clubs have between each other. I was not expecting a United win, if I'm being honest. I thought Liverpool would cruise. Again, we've been talking about this season, Klopp's hope, was hoping for a fairy tale ending, it being his final season. But I was very shocked when Ahmad went through and then ended up bagging the winner. I think that was quite shocking to all of us. But I don't know. I think the game, there's another game that I was really intrigued with. I think that was the Chelsea-Leicester City game. I watched that game and I actually enjoyed that game as well. And I was actually rooting for Leicester City. I was rooting so bad when Mavididi, oh my gosh, obviously former Arsenal Academy product, when he curled that in on the hour mark, I was like, okay, we've got a game here. And I was really hoping Leicester City would kick on, but obviously they had the sending off as well, I think, which affected them too. And obviously you got Chelsea who went through. But I agree with Wes in the sense of, I think my game of the weekend was Chelsea-Leicester City, but I agree with Wes in that I think you have to really give props to Coventry and what they've done to be able to get to the semi-final. I think it will be a great day out for fans for that semi-final. And who knows if they can make it to the final. What about you, Holly? Did you have a game of the weekend?
I was going to say I was on my deathbed for most of it. I think the Spurs game kind of killed me off. So I'd be lying and I say the Coventry one, but you can tell I totally forgot about it, which is awful to say the least, because obviously, like I say, that is what the FA Cup is all about. But when I saw the scoreline come in about Man United scoring those dying minutes, I think that was a madness. So yeah, I'm going to be the awful fan and say probably the Man United Liverpool one. But it was, like I say, that's what the magic of the FA Cup is. Those kind of dying moments, those lower club teams going against the big guns and doing them over. It's kind of what you want to see and you love to see. But I'm going
to and put it this way as well, Holly. Like the year that we drew Marine in the FA Cup, like every Spurs fan initially went, "Yes, get in." Then it was that thing of, okay, if we lose this, every Spurs fan went through that process of like, "Oh my God, this is the probably the easiest tie we could get." And then it was like, yeah, but if we actually lose this, we are a meme for the rest of time. And that's kind of, it was obviously a shame that it was during like proper COVID restrictions and we couldn't go, or there was no fans there. But I think then what Marine did as a football club, like was actually really clever, and they probably sold more. I know they did the virtual tickets, and they probably sold more of those than what they would have probably sold for the actual game itself. But like that type of thing there keeps the FA Cup alive, and I think that's why it's the greatest cup competition in the world.
It really is, and that's the thing. It's the excitement of it as well. Like you say, I'm obviously as a Spurs fan, you do have that dread when you get the smaller clubs out the hat, as we all know. But no, you're right. I think that's what football's all about at the end of the day. But we're going to flip things on its head, because obviously last week or the week before we were talking about the top four battle, and this week we're going to talk about the other end of the table, and obviously the point deduction to Forest that came out. That's kind of jigged things up at the bottom. So I'm going to start with Nelson for this one. So Nelson, how do you find the battle for relegation going, or the battle of survival, shall we say?
Oh, I mean, with the point deduction, as you mentioned, Holly, I think it's going to be a tough one. I think these last 10 games are actually going to be quite juicy. I think there's going to be battles everywhere. The title, top four, and then you've obviously got the relegation battle. I think, if I'm being honest, I think Burnley and Sheffield United are a shoo-in for them getting relegated. I know Burnley, a company, is coming to the league. He's tried to continue his style of play that he's done from the Championship and bring it up. But obviously the players haven't really executed, and obviously they've just come up against better opposition at the end of the day. We know all Sheffield's, mathematically they can still make it, but I think it's just been a combinations of everything, manager, just poor quality, a lot that's affected them. Forest, I think Forest can still get out of it. If I'm being honest, I think Forest can still get out of it. I know that I'm not sure who has the tougher running between all these clubs, because you've got the likes of Everton and Luton who could be pulled right into it, as well as Brentford too. But I think in terms of the Burnley and Sheffield United there, I think they're shooing to head down. I think they're actually facing each other in the running as well to stay up. So that would be a vital game for both sides. And I think most of these clubs will actually be facing each other as well in the last 10 games. So it's looking like a good one. I don't know who will be that last team to join potentially Burnley or Sheffield United. but I think it's going to be a really good battle, because I think we all know that 40-point mark is what teams obviously aim for in terms of safety. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I really don't know. What about you, Wes? What are you thinking? I mean, it's a tough one.
I have been praying for the majority of the season for Luton to stay up, just because I think it would be arguably the biggest and one of the best stories. I think Luton staying up is probably on par with Leicester winning the league, given their whole story and everything else. I think now this points deduction has just blown everything like wide open once again. My feeling is I'm a little bit similar with you, Nelson. I think Sheffield United are a dead cert. Burnley now with that points deduction might have a little bit of hope. There's obviously a 4-point gap now between them and Forest, 5 now to Luton. And they've picked up a win against Brentford, which was key. So, they might try and kick on. I know Company made a couple of changes, changed the shape, dropped Trafford and put in Muric, which I know a lot of Burnley fans have been hoping for a long time. The team that's interesting me at the minute, there's 2. Brentford in particular, because I remember when Ivan Toney was going to save them, they've barely won since he's come back, so it's a bit awkward. They can't buy a win at the moment, and Forest can't seem to gain any momentum either. But yeah, I think as Ronnie said there, if Forest appeal it, they might get some points back. So yeah, I would just absolutely love to see Luton do it. I really, really would, because then I think that would just almost put like a 2 fingers up at people that go like, oh, you have to spend X amount of money to stay in the league, or you have to do things a certain way. And I'm hoping as well, if they do stay up, that I get to go to Kenilworth Road again next season, because I missed out this year and I was absolutely fuming. So yeah, obviously it's a ground that everybody I would assume would want to go to, with the infamous away end, everything else. So yeah, and obviously it's not going to be around too much longer because Luton are building a new stadium. So but yeah, I think Everton will be okay. I think they've got something about them. I think they can pick up points. And I just think it's about, I think for Everton, they're more solid, I would say, compared to the others in and around them. I think their problem has been scoring goals, but I think they'll pick up some points along the way. So for me, I think Everton will be okay, but Brentford on a slippery slope. Luton are in and around it. They can't seem to gain momentum. And I think Forest now, this might just kill a bit of confidence. So that's how I kind of see it unfolding at the bottom.
It's quite interesting. It's like you say, apart from obviously Sheffield United, bless them, you can't really tell who's going to be out and dusted. But like you say, I think I'm the same. I'd like to see Luton stay up. Obviously, the fact that happens, I think it was their centre back, wasn't it? Obviously, with the heart attack and things. So it would be nice to see him, and the team obviously stay up. But like you said, it's heating up down the bottom, and I don't want to say it's quite nice they've chucked some point deductions in there, but it's kind of boosted up a bit. Like you say, the top ends all a bit all over the gaff, and so is the bottom end. But it will be interesting to see how that one kind of goes down. And obviously this is normally where we talk about what games are coming up. Obviously we've got that little bit of break, and I don't know, before we go, whether we talk a little bit on obviously Southgate ball, and discuss what we kind of think in the lineups, because Nelson, obviously the guy for me that's in that squad is Mainu. I hope I haven't mentioned his name, but for you, Nelson, how do you feel that is, him coming into the side at such a young age as well?
I'm all for it. I mean, I obviously he plays for United. That's a bit disappointing. I think anybody would want him at their club. But you got to give credit to the young lad. I mean, he's come in, and Eric has seen something, and he's played really good performances, and he's had some vital plays in terms of how the game swung. And I'm all for it. I mean, I'm obviously we've had young players come in the past, and sometimes people have had the argument whether or not it's a bit too early for that for that young player to come in. Should he still be with the youth sides or the under 21s? But I personally think it's a good move. I think for him it's only going to build his confidence. I think once he returns to United, I think he's gonna be so relieved in the sense that he can just play with a lot of freedom, knowing that he has that talent to be called up by Southgate. I think once a player has that confidence in himself, the sky's the limit for them. So I'm all for it, Hollie. I think it's a great pickup, and I think hopefully he gets that appearance, he gets his cap, and yeah, I'm all for it. I'm nothing against it.
No, I think that's the thing for me. Obviously, as we all know, my football knowledge that isn't Tottenham isn't brilliant. But the fact that I knew about him shows that obviously he is doing something right. And the fact that Southgate's put him in that position is amazing. I mean, for you, Wes, obviously, I always see the name Jordan Henderson on a team sheet. But is there anybody else on that team sheet that you're thinking, wow, I really can't wait to see him have a go in an England shirt?
I think I would love to see Kobe get a chance. I think he is a boy in a man's body. Like he is similar to Jude in that respect, and I think Jude Bellingham is world class. I absolutely love Jude Bellingham. The guy can do everything. And you look at the impact he's had at Real Madrid, like arguably the biggest club in the world, and he's just gone, yeah, this is my stage. And he's got the fans eating out the palm of his hand. As well. So I'd love to see Kobe get a look in, because I think every time I've watched him, I've been really, really impressed. How for such a young player playing for Man United, again, arguably one of the biggest clubs in the world, big stage, a lot of pressure as well, because United's form is so mixed. But he just takes the ball in all types of areas and all types of positions, and I think from a defender's point of view, he must be a dream, because you just go, I'll just give him the ball and he'll sort me out, kind of thing. He'll do something. And I think again, to come into a midfield so young and yet just take to it like a duck to water, he's been really, really impressive. He's got that little bit of arrogance and swagger about him when he plays. As well, for me, he can take a risk. There's a lot of young players that sort of come through. And I think, we saw it at Spurs with Nabil Bentaleb in particular, like, was very safe on the ball, played off 2 touches a lot of the time, whereas Mainoo's got that really good ability to know when to play off of 1 or 2 touch, but then also, when to and he glides past players as well, Kobe Mainoo. That's the thing that impresses me the most, because you don't really see that in central areas. So yeah, Kobe for me. Obviously, I mentioned Jude. Absolutely love the guy. Yeah, I love watching him play, because again, he's a boy in a man's body, and whatnot. So yeah, I think I wouldn't mind seeing the likes of perhaps like Ezri Konsa get a look in. I think his form at Villa is definitely warranted a call up. But let's kind of see what he's about. And I think I did a video as well for wild cards, and I put Anthony Gordon and Jareth Branthwaite in there. So again, it might be interesting, especially with Anthony Gordon. That left winger slot is very, very much up for grabs with England. So if he can show something in these 2 games, who knows? He could be a sort of shoe in them for that squad in the Euros. And I also want to mention Jared Bowen as well, because I think he's massively underrated. And I think if he was playing for one of the big 6, we'd be talking about him a lot more, especially with his contribution to West Ham as a team and as a club, especially over the last couple of years. So I'm hoping he gets a good run of games as well, or at least some minutes in these 2 friendlies, because again, I think he's a wicked player.
And that's the thing. And then all of those players surely get more game time than Jordan Henderson. But we'll wait and see, because I don't know what that man has got with Southgate. But my words, every time I see a team sheet and he's on there, I sigh, a big sigh. But hey ho, we'll see how that one goes out. Obviously, no Spurs to ruin our weekend, which is lovely. But it's been great to obviously dissect a little bit of the Fulham game, because I can't bring myself to go over it again, and a lot more other things. But it's been great with you two. So we'll do our goodbyes. First of all, obviously, the show is sponsored again by Kofa. So, Wes, I'm going to let you do your thing when I find the right bloody thing, when I found it. So, Wes, explain what Kofa is to everyone.
Kickoff Football Academy, or Kofa, is in Milton Keynes. It's my coaching business, so we help lots of young boys and girls with their football skills and their footballing ability. Just trying to give a little bit of something back to the local area. As you can see there, we do lots of one-on-one sessions. We run mini kickers sessions, holiday camps, which we've actually got one coming up in the Easter holidays. So if your child is free, please get in touch and get booked on for that. We offer birthday parties, girls football, after school football skills centre, basically the lot when it comes to football. So if you are in the area, as I said earlier, please get in touch with us, and we would love to help your son or daughter along their footballing journey.
Lovely, jubbly. And also, I want to say a big thank you to Nelson again for joining tonight. Nelson, where can everybody find you doing your thing as well?
You guys can find me on just Instagram at Natumba. That's NTUMBA. N at Natumba 25 on Instagram. So that's where you can find me.
Lovely stuff. And I said the best bit till last because Wes, it's time for your outro, my friend. Where can everybody find you as well?
Here we go. Twitter's at Wezo10, the unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account, usually tweeting things about the best Belgian to grace Premier League shores. Instagram is at Wezo32, usually at a Spurs game. And as you reminded me earlier, Hollie, it was the 2-year anniversary, I think, that we actually met in person for the first time. As we beat West Ham, I think it was 3-1 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And then we've got Kickoff Football Academy or Kofa MK across your socials. So that's the football coaching stuff. And then topical football content at WM32 Football, which, Hollie, you bullied me into doing. So yeah, I haven't done a video this week. I need to get on that. So I'm hoping over the next couple of days I can get something out for the people. So WM32 Football on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for that. And that is a wrap.
Lovely stuff. And obviously Hollie's Hotspurs Live will not be on Monday. I feel bad because obviously I was too ill this Monday, but we're giving it a break next week because obviously there's no game. But we will be back next week, same time, same place, Wednesday, Hotspur Huddle, where I'll be joined by these two lovely chaps to dissect obviously the game coming up and a few more little bits that happen over the weekend, football related. But hope everybody has enjoyed. Make sure if you are new to subscribe, all the good stuff. We're so close to 3K. It'd be great to get there before the end of the season. And until next time, like we always say, come on, you Spurs.